I'm here with a punk Necron player, and I'm gonna take you down, brother. I'm gonna come with the Green Horde, and I'm gonna bring the pain. Come at me, brother.
Oh, yeah. I see your Green Horde, and I got your number. You're nothing but a genetic mistake. You're not worthy. We bathe in the blood of the unworthy. Oh, yeah.
Me and my green fungus are gonna come at you so hard, brother. We're gonna hit you with our choppas. I'm gonna bring in my death kid, and I'm gonna make you bleed.
I got your fungal remover right here, brother. I'm gonna take you down to your component atoms, sprinkle you like dust over the battlefield. I've seen your salt technique, and I disrespect it.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you're prepared to exercise your minds with this week's episode of Strata-Gym. I'm your host, Andrew Freeman, and I've got some strategy experts with me breaking down your favorite 40k and Age of Sigmar armies so you can go out and destroy and conquer friends or foes. On a legal note, none of the things said in this show represent Games Workshop or any of its affiliated companies. This show is in no way affiliated or owned by Games Workshop. This show is created by two guys in a small broom closet that enjoy nerding out to OP formations that put so much cheese on the board it makes grown men cry. Whew. Today I have with me Chris. Tell the listeners how you got into the hobby and why you picked Necrons as your army.
I got into the hobby about 10, 11 years ago. I picked Necrons because that was the box set I was purchased. And then I kind of fell in love with them. They're a wonderful model to mess with. And it's not hard to impress people with the paint job. A lot of people are pretty willing to accept the base, spray and dip. So if you do a little bit extra, a lot of people are like, wow, that's cool. So I get a lot of feels for a little bit of work.
What current projects are you working on with your Necrons?
This edition has brought so many new items, making a lot of things that you didn't see in 7th good. I've got my Catacomb Command Barge. I've been playing with that. I've been having a lot of fun with that as a new HQ choice. I got to put my Monolith on the table. I'm excited about that.
I didn't enjoy that, but we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, there are a lot of things that I've been able to play that you just really didn't see in previous editions. They weren't very strong for the points. And with the rework, a lot of the Necron vehicles have become more viable. It's been fantastic.
What future events are you looking forward to?
Actually, I was trying to build and put together a tournament list. With the change in the meta, I now have to go back and build some other things that I kind of had as personal projects. And so, ultimately, my goal is to start playing in some of the local tournaments. I want to bring Crons forward in the local scene, make people fear the undead.
What unit really sucked in 7th, but all of a sudden is really what you really want in your army and you have to have? Must have. You're like, I couldn't play this before.
Lots of Necron warriors. They are fantastic. I mean, they were a mediocre troop. You had them in your armies because you had to. Now you can get a lot done with the way they've reworked reanimation protocols, with the synergies they've got with your HQ units. They are a really efficient option for filling out spots in your army.
Necron warriors. They're worth it. Go buy some. Alright, let's get into it. Let's work our core.
I'm a cybernetic organism, living tissue over a metal endoskeleton.
Now, for Necrons. Before we get into that, we did a little thing. He came in and we actually played a game against my orcs. His Necrons, my orcs. Yeah, so that was fun. If people don't know what happened in the game, I'll just say it went okay. It went alright.
It was an exchange. It was a fair exchange.
I wouldn't call it a curb stomping. But you did have me sweating bullets there.
Oh man, when you got into melee combat, it hurt. It hurt bad.
The orcs are good at melee, but I shot 15 shots with just pistols, and I think one of them hit. So I wasn't feeling too good about the shooting phase there.
Actually, my Necrons failed me. I did not get a single reanimation protocol at all that entire game.
But you still wrecked-faced, and I hate your monolith.
Well, yeah, that's the thing.
So, now that we're talking about Necrons and our battle, which I did not lose, it's a draw. How do you start building a Necron army? What is your core build that will generally do okay against anything?
The biggest synergies in the Necron army come from standard troops choices and HQs. They have a lot of different options for buffing reanimation protocols. A Lord gives you extra attack, advance, which, when you're rolling a lot of dice hitting on 2s, you get a lot of work done. Destroyer Lords, rerolling 1s is fantastic. So, really, Necrons it's not really a flashy army. There aren't a lot of tricks to it. It's very much build up a base. There's not a lot of shock and awe. It's very much impending doom coming at you across the table.
So starting with infantry, what's your go-to, like you said Necron warriors, so I'm guessing most of your infantry is going to be, how many units of warriors would you put in your infantry?
When I get all said and done, I'm probably going to be putting 60 warriors on the table for a tournament list.
Goodness gracious, that's a lot. And the protocols are going to really make that a pain to get through.
Yeah, because you've got 3 blocks of 20. I put Cryptex, which are actually a budget HQ option that will give you bonuses to that roll. Lords with Res Orbs can allow you to make that roll twice. And you can also get a lot of value out of Ghost Arcs. Ghost Arcs are surprisingly durable right now.
Ghost Arcs a must-have to get your Necrons across the board?
Yes. You do not have a lot of movement in that army. Once you're deployed, you're not going very far. And for a shooting army, your range is tragically short. 24 to 36 inches is about all you can expect. And that's all day. But within that 24 inches, especially when you get in 12 with that rapid fire, you're throwing a lot of dice, you've got a lot of proficiency, and you have AP on almost every unit.
Now, to tie that in all together, we're talking synergy here. What is the first warlord you must have that synergizes, really energizes your warriors, and maybe even helps out your Ghost Arcs?
I would probably start with a Ghost Arc, Warriors, and a Cryptek. Between that, you've got a lot of shooting out of the Ghost Arc. You've got a lot of mobility. Those Warriors will be super durable with rolling 4-ups on that reanimation protocol. And you can get extra rerolls if that Ghost Arc is within 3 inches. So you can build a core that can sit on an objective and be there all game unless your opponent wants to take a turn and take all of his shooting and focus it on that small little bit.
Now, with the new indexes coming out, what basic abilities did it give your army? Your, starter abilities?
The core of the army ability is really the reanimation protocol. Most of your infantry units have it at the beginning of your turn. Any units you've lost from a unit that's still on the table, you're rolling on a 5-up, that model comes back. So even if you've got some multi-wound models in there, they will come back and rejoin that unit. You can get a lot of value out of that, especially since, like I said, Cryptex will buff it, Ghost Arcs can buff it. You can get Res Orbs on your leaders, or your Overlords, your Lords, and your Destroyer Lords. And that allows you to make a second roll after the first. It's a one-shot, but if you've got a unit of 20 dudes and you really have to have that line to accept a charge, or you really need those extra shots, you can bring a lot of... I've actually brought 10 Necrons back at a go in a turn, and when you're within 12 inches, that's bringing 20 dice to a shooting phase.
That's pretty nasty. That's just that many wounds they have to get through just to get to the meat of your army, really.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you're playing, I'd say the basic force you're going to play against most of the time is Space Marines. Because almost everybody is like, follow Space Marines. What are the weaknesses you have against an army like that?
Well, it really depends on how they're playing it. Space Marines are a big toolbox. Shooting, I actually feel like Necrons are better. Everybody talks about long range and las cannons, but I also have an ability called quantum shielding on a lot of my vehicles, and I can ignore a lot of heavy damage. If you've got those multi-wound single shots, the way it works is you roll your number of wounds, and then I roll a die. If my die is lower than yours, I ignore it altogether. So those las cannons that everybody's packing into lists right now, I can take a bunch. I've had a Ghost Arc soak up 30 wounds worth of Dark Lances.
Oh my god.
And just sit there smiling. Also, a lot of my vehicles regenerate wounds as well.
Living armor, I believe it's...
Or living metal, excuse me.
Okay.
And your HQ choices, your Lords and your Cryptex have access to that as well. You have a lot of wound regeneration. If you want to attack a Necron army, you have to pick a unit and destroy that unit, and then move on. You can't spread your fire out. If you do that, you're going to waste a lot of time. If you can't focus down a unit, you're spinning your wheels a lot, because models are going to come back, models are going to regenerate wounds. That one random las cannon is not going to take out any of my vehicles anymore. It just isn't going to happen. I've actually moved closer to Melta-Guns, because they have to roll 2 and pick the highest. And so I have run up on Melta-Guns and then made them roll 2, pick the highest, and then shoot under that and absorb it with my quantum shielding.
Wow, that's insane. Now, how would you change your play versus open play? If there's an objective play, what would you do differently?
Objectives are tough. My vehicles are really mobile, but my troops, which make the bulk of my firepower, are not. I've got a lot of interesting deep strike options, but they're troublesome. Monoliths, I can put units in reserve and I can bring them out. I can't deep strike a monolith and put that unit out the same turn. So I either have to start that monolith on the table and it only moves 6 inches, or I can deep strike it and then it's got to survive a turn before I can drop a unit. And if there's still units in reserve when that monolith goes down, they're gone. They don't get to walk on the edge. They're just gone.
Yeah.
So I've got some interesting mobility options, but they have a significant risk associated with them.
So what you're saying for your core build, you're telling people to go out and buy at least 2 assault boxes, those $55 boxes. You'd get 2 Ghost Arcs, 20 Warriors. That would be a good core build, and then just go out and buy a Cryptek. Would that be
Cryptek, a Lord. Destroyer Lords are also an excellent option. They're just kind of a pain in the neck to get a hold of, because you've got to get the Destroyer and then get the Lord upgrade kit. So it's probably a little farther down the road. But those are excellent small unit mobile weapons platforms.
Let's take this to the next level. Let's get ripped!
I don't know if you heard me counting. I did over 1,000. You have your ubulus muscle that connects to the upper dorsimus. It's boring, but it's part of my life. I'm just going to grab this shirt if you don't mind. Just watch out for the guns.
I think I just sharted. How do I advance my army? The first 1,000 points. We got the Ghost deal, Ghost Arc on the board. We got our boys in it. We got our Necron warriors in it. We got our Cryptek warrior or our battle barge leading the way. That's our first 1,000 points, right? How do we take it to the next level? What units and abilities are we putting in that's just going to crush the souls of our enemies?
It depends on which way you want to go. If you want to focus on your durability, Canoptic Spiders are an interesting option because they have the ability to add to Scarab units. I love Scarab units because they're small, they're fast, and they're really tiny, so it's super easy to hide them behind terrain and make them unshootable, unassaultable, because you gotta be able to see them to do either. And hiding them, even what would be chest-high of terrain to Marines, you can be completely obscured by. So you can, if you play them right, you can get them around the board. They're excellent for taking tactical objectives. You can replenish them with those spiders, and you're going to have them coming out of your warrior sprue, so you're going to have them. Spiders can shoot. Spiders can